This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
JM Ryerson founded and sold 3 businesses and is now helping leaders and teams do the very same thing. He's an author of the best-selling book, Let's Go Win, a Champion's Daily Playbook, and Upgrade, another amazing book. He is a leadership and performance coach. He's an international speaker, and he's host of the Let's Go Win podcast and has built and sold 3 companies. I mentioned that before in the intro, but I will tell you that not too many people can put that on their resume. This is a guy that has led sales teams for over 2 decades. He's the founder and CEO of Let's Go Win, where he's on a mission really to help increase leadership. Which is something I'm passionate about as a listener. We all need to enhance cultures and help teams to achieve peak performance, and JM is on a mission to do that. He is inspiring people to live their best lives and become open to what life has in store for them. So this transcends even leadership, quite frankly. His ultimate goal is to give others the tools that is going to allow them to transcend their self-limiting beliefs. He was raised in Montana and now lives in Boca Raton, Florida, with his wife Lisa and their 2 amazing boys. JM, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
Brother, always good to be with you, Jeff, and thank you. It's fun to flip the script here. You were on my show, and incredible guest, so I'm just honored to be on yours.
Yeah, man, we had a good time in that discussion, and I know this is not going to be anything different. You bring a wealth of knowledge. The people listening to this show, they are prepared to be challenged because these are growth-minded individuals, leaders that want to get better, aspiring entrepreneurs that want to be challenged and know what their blind spots are. But I got to ask you, from Montana to Florida, like how did all of that take place? I've been to Montana a couple times and absolutely loved it, but I feel like the weather in Florida maybe was the draw. Tell us about it.
Well, there's a 20-year or so time period where I was in California because that's where my wife is from.
Okay.
So you know what? It wasn't expected, Jeff. I just got done studying abroad after I played basketball in college, blew out my knee, ended up studying abroad. Why that means anything is I came back and I graduated. And I didn't even expect to at the time frame I did. Well, I ended up cruising down to California and I moved someplace for almost 20 years, got married, 2 kids later, built a few businesses. And at some point I told my wife, I said, I think it's time for a change. And so our oldest son plays extremely competitive tennis and Florida was a fit. So that's kind of where Florida came into the picture. Yeah, man, I miss Montana dearly. It's still will always be home to me, but California, Florida have been nice adoptive places as well.
I mean, not bad alternatives. You can always fly back to Montana and visit, right?
Yes.
So,
and I try to. So
I'm sure of it. This building and selling of companies, not for the faint of heart, clearly. When you were, on the journey, on the path, was this a goal where you were like, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build companies and I'm going to sell them and then I'm going to build another one and sell it? Or did it just kind of organically happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. No, it was not a plan. If anybody knows me for too long, I kind of shoot from the hip. So there wasn't a lot of planning that went into that. I found really quick, Jeff, that I learned what I was good at very early, and it was sales, leadership, and building teams. And the area I was in financial services, but if you were to ask me any financial questions, you're going to be real disappointed with my answers because it's not my expertise at all. But I realized that real quickly. I was like, that's not really what I'm here to do. I'm here to help others be that vehicle. And so, we ended up selling the first one, and I had the same business partner through the first 3 companies. And it's a series of hard work and some luck and a bunch of mistakes all along the way. But it was a crazy wild ride, and I'm so blessed to have been a part of all three of those companies, and now Let's Go Win is that one company. I don't know if I'll ever sell this one. I really love it.
This is the legacy company, maybe? This is the mark?
I think so, man. You know, you never know, right? Because legacy is such a big word, but I would love for my kids to take Let's Go Win over someday if that's what they choose to do. That was the whole idea when I started it, but we'll see. You know, they're in the midst of figuring out their stuff, and it'll always be there for them if they choose, but if not, then maybe I'll sell. I don't know. I just love it too much.
Well, listen, it's definitely making big impact. And I mean, look, your content, your podcast, your books, those are the things that can make a difference. And I love that you referenced the mistakes and failures. And those are the kind of guests that I love to have on. I believe that we can learn more in failure than any success you can ever have. And I want to lean into that a little bit for our listener. You know, I say often that wisdom comes two ways, either you're failing or getting around people that have and learning from it, right? So listen, you have an amazing track record of success. I'm sure you would say that you didn't do it alone. You built great teams. You mentioned that was one of your specialties, is building great teams. You've probably led some amazing people along this journey that kind of helped you win and helped you grow. Can you talk to that leader or that entrepreneur that's listening in and maybe give them some advice on how to best empower and inspire their teams to do some of the things that you've been able to do?
Well, you're absolutely right. I've been very fortunate to surround myself with people that were amazing. And, you know, I think that's one of the first things I would tell leaders is when you do surround yourself with the talented people that you were able to attract, because ultimately you attracted them, you should also be willing to empower them to take that responsibility and role. And ultimately you're trying to work yourself out of a job, or at least that was always my goal, is like, look, I want to hire a leader that's going to take my place and then some. And, you know, oftentimes I feel like I see leaders get caught up in the importance of what I do and I bring this to the table. I try to always check my ego at the door and say, look, I know I bring some skills to the table, but it really is the team around me that's creating this. And that was kind of some of the magic and secret sauce that took place is, you know, Rich is the name of my business partner, and I really, maybe it was out of sheer laziness that we love that people are awesome that come in and they can take the ball and run with it, because truth be told, brother, I want to see them thrive. And so, you know, consistently through our career, we would hire those gifted and talented, hardworking individuals, and we give them the opportunity to ultimately take our place. So that was a formula that worked for us not only once but twice, and ultimately the third time. And but it's never easy. You know, checking that ego sometimes can be really challenging, and something that, you know, I tell everyone I'm surrounded by, please, if I get too big here, or if the goal and I think I'm more important than the goal, check me. And that's one of the things that we had, is that, you know, radical transparency is what we called it, is, you know, please, we open feedback at all times, because we want the team to thrive. It's much bigger than any one person.
So true. You know, you had mentioned hiring, right? You know, which is the hardest thing we have to do, is build a team. You know, when you're 100% sure you're 60% right of any given hire, you know, there comes this empowerment and inspiration that has to be developed over time. What advice do you have to people as far as, look, you hire talent, but it doesn't just stop there. We have to equip people. You know, this delegation without empowerment is like monstrous, right? What's some advice you give to people on the art of empowerment? How do we go about doing this?
You know, I always say treat them like your brother. When you put your arm around them and you truly pour into that person. Now, there's a lot that goes into that saying, treat them like a brother. That doesn't mean that it's always going to be peaches and cream. Like, that means if anybody grew up with a brother or a sibling, you know, there's some battles along the way. There's some challenging that's going on. There's some fighting that's going on, and all in the search of improving, one another, improving the direction of the company. But if you can truly put your arm around, and again, when I say treat them like a brother, that could be a woman, that could be a man. It doesn't matter. It's not gender specific. But the idea is to say, I'm going to treat this person and I'm going to give them everything that I have. I'm going to pour into them. And when you pour from your cup, and if you're pouring, like you're filling your cup first and then pouring into theirs, that's going to allow them to do the same. Mm-hmm. So if there's one thing I would say, treat them like a brother. It's really put your arm around that person and say, I genuinely care about you, Jeff, who you are, what your aspirations, goals are. You're not just another number. Because I think for so many years, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, corporations, it was just, you're a number. And whatever you produce, that's all it was. I think we've shifted, to where it's really more than that. When I'm hiring somebody, I'm not just hiring Jeff. I'm hiring Jeff and his wife and his kids and everyone that he's responsible for. That's a great responsibility, which means I want to pour into Jeff as much as humanly possible, knowing that that's going to be extremely fruitful for Jeff, who he's going to influence, and ultimately for myself as well.
Well said. I think that's where the chasm between motivation and inspiration is what you just said. I think a lot of people will chalk up intimacy as soft leadership, but I will tell you, like, this deposits and withdrawals is real. Like, God rest his soul, Jack Welch, I mean, his numbers speak for themselves. But I think what we're finding more and more is that the Jack Welch methodology of leadership, it wasn't sustainable, because as soon as he removed himself, we saw a deterioration pretty quickly. And so what we thought maybe worked might have been propped up with, some tough-minded leadership that may be overextended. And I think you're absolutely onto something there. And talking about leadership, which is a subject you and I are both passionate about, we've all heard this saying, as the leadership goes, so goes the organization. And I believe that to be true. You can have a mediocre product with great leadership and dominate. You could have a superior product with less than mediocre leadership and lose. One thing that we know about companies that scale in a healthy way is that they have a great leadership culture. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, JM. What are some leadership qualities that you've seen over the years that great leaders, they possess these and they have stood out to you? 3 different companies, probably multiple different leadership styles, attributes, and personalities. What are those that stand out to you that you would say, these are the things that make a high impact leader?
Gosh, that's a great question. And really quick on the Jack Welch thing, I think it's such an important distinction, because for many years he was revered as the CEO. And yet when he removed himself, like you said, you saw the deterioration. In my opinion, that's not a great leader. In fact, that's actually an example of a poor leader. Now, that's not me talking down about it. That's just how wildly gifted and talented he was. But the challenge is, if you don't empower these people, then when you walk away, so a good test for everybody real quick is, when you walk away, does your organization grow or stay the same? I think you're a fantastic leader. If you walk away, like go on vacation for a couple weeks and it goes down, you need to look in the mirror and you need to be better. So just to that point. Now, the 3 attributes, I think, is the question I heard. I have written several blogs on this, and I've noticed I've had about 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 different attributes. But when you ask that question, brother, I think of 3 things. I think of empathy, the ability of a leader to put themselves in that person's shoes, which is, by the way, the biggest challenge I've had as a leader myself, that I have had to continue to work on that skill, especially early in my career, because I was going to win no matter what. It didn't matter at what cost. We're going to compromise it all, and it almost cost me my marriage personally. So having empathy is something that I think is so vitally important. Courage, having the courage to not only make those hard decisions, but to not be liked. That's something that we as leaders have to be okay with. Like, we all want to be liked, but that's not your job ultimately. Your job is to influence people to perform at a higher level. And then ultimately the other C I would say is communication. That ability to really communicate your vision as a leader so that people are inspired to go and reach, that their vision can fit inside of yours. Those are the leaders. When I look out and I look at some of those incredible leaders and I say, that guy or gal can communicate their vision, that's just so powerful. So those are the three I've landed on, Jeff. And like I said, I've hit many different attributes through the years, but I really believe empathy, courage, and communication are the three that I've really landed on at this point in time.
Man, and that sometimes it takes a lifetime to even come close to doing that effectively. That courage piece, man, it resonates with me in a big way. And probably something that I was challenged with most as a new leader all those years ago is like, how is it possible that somebody couldn't like me? I'm a pretty jovial guy. Like, all I do is try to give. I pour of myself. I give of time. I'm doing the training. How is it even possible that somebody couldn't like me? I think Steve Jobs said it best. He said, if you want everybody to like you, sell ice cream. Don't be a leader, right? Like, it's literally impossible. And you could maybe even argue that if everybody likes you, you're not effective as a leader, right? So I think that's a big one. And look, there's probably a list of 100 that we could talk about. But I think that trifecta that you're talking about, if leaders can get those right, they're going to be pretty impactful leaders. Empathy, huge. Communication, my goodness sake, full stop. The likes of Winston Churchill talked about the power of communication so much. How do we get better at that? This communication thing, if I'm ranking those three, I'm saying that's probably number one for me anyway. How do we get better? So it's one thing to tell somebody, be a great communicator.
Yeah. How
do we develop that skill?
It's a great question and one that I continue to look at. I love feedback, right? The only way I know how to get better, and I'll give it to your listeners right now. After you listen to this episode, if there's something that you're like, that was terrible, you know what? I want to know about it. I want to know how I can get better. And I think that's one of those things that, oftentimes it doesn't feel great when people are like, I got to tell you, man, that was terrible. That speech you gave was absolutely awful. And my wife has been there to do that for me. God bless her. I've given her permission. And there are times when she says it and I'm just like, my defense mechanisms go up and I clench and it's just like, oh, that hurt. But you know what? That's the greatest gift someone can give me. So to really improve our communication, I think it's constantly asking for feedback. Asking, did that resonate with you? Are you with me? What did you get out of what I just said? And if they answer back, they didn't hear you and you didn't do an effective job of communicating, because the truth be told is it's on you. It's not on them. Now, as a listener, one of the things that as a podcast host, one of the biggest challenges we have is actually listening to what they're saying instead of waiting for the next thing to say, right? Because you always want the show to keep going. But one of the things that I had to really get good at is hearing exactly what Jeff had to say and listening to what that, not getting ready to rebuttal or retort or, come up with some fancy, like sounding good thing, but rather actually listening to what was said and then communicating something back that brings value to the conversation. So, it's an ever-evolving thing, and I just love the feedback. And I will tell you guys, I'm telling that piece of advice, if you take it, just know it's going to hurt, because some of the people that you love and you care for, they're going to tell you things that you're like, no, you're supposed to just be my cheerleader. Well, that's cool if you want a bunch of yes men and women around you, but I don't want that. I want to be the very best I can be. And that's one of the things of, learning humility for me, Jeff, was just accepting all feedback, taking it and looking at how I can get better as a communicator or, as a parent, whatever hat I'm wearing, because ultimately I want to show up as the best version of me for that group, that organization, for my family.
Man, that's so good. I love a piece that you referenced, JM, which is listening. I feel like it's such an underrated, because when we think communication, we think our lips are moving, right? Which is true. But the best communicators are the best listeners. You know, they don't react, they respond, right? They're responding to what they're listening to, what they're hearing. You know, the best communicators ask the best questions to draw out feedback, right? I absolutely love that. We all need that friend that can tell us our breath stinks, right? You know, that's valuable. But the wrong person telling you that could be offensive. And so I love what you're saying about feedback, because we're all a product of that. And to be a great communicator, somebody's got to smooth out the rough edges, right? I mean, we were troubleshooting some tech things before we hit record. And it's like, and I've had that. And it's like, the easy thing to do would have been like, yep, everything's great, hit record, let's go. But that's not excellence. And I know you're a man of excellence. You know I am as well. That doesn't make us perfect. But we've only known each other for about 3 or 4 weeks. And we're already in a place that it's like, I got your 6. Like, I'm going to look out for you. Like, we need help in doing that. Great perspective, JM, for sure.
Well, you know what's interesting too, and I told both you and Bradley off air, I was like, this is the second or third time. Nobody spent the time like you guys did to say, no, let's find this, let's figure out what it was. And we found it, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't have the solution for the next. That's why I'm wearing the white headphones right now, guys. But it's so valuable that Jeff and his team was like, no, you want to show up as the best version of you, right? Yes, I do. Well, let's figure it out. Because this buzzing is going to get in the audience's way. So kudos to you guys for doing that. And you're right, man. It's just actively listening. You as a speaker, man, when you're up on stage and you see people nodding their head, or you see people like this, you know, with their arms crossed, you know who you really want to be looking at. And you want those arms to uncross eventually. But if they don't, you're going to go to that active listener because you see that it's resonating with them. And so in communication, both parties have a responsibility, both as the person speaking and the person receiving. So,
man, that's so good. Yeah, leaders, I don't know if this is something we can ever define perfection in. It's evolving, it's moving. When you think you have it figured out, new players come on the scene. But if there is an area, I agree, JM, let's put a lot of area into becoming better communicators. I'd like to get your personal perspective on something. I talk to quite a few people day in, day out, very, very similar to you, you know, whether that's coaching or consulting or mentoring or whatever it might be. But I talk to people who lose a level of fulfillment, lose a level of drive. I was one of those people at one point, and it wasn't because the money was bad, that the title was bad, that I had a bad office or a bad parking spot. I just lost fulfillment. And I talk to a lot of people that go through this. We know that the definition of success can vary. We've all met the wealthy person that's miserable. We all have known somebody that had a big title and vast responsibility, and they lacked fulfillment. Can you talk to the person listening that maybe is experiencing this? What have you observed as it relates to this? What are some of those signs for the person that's maybe experiencing this and they haven't even defined it yet? And how do they improve in this area?
Brother, this is one of those things that I hope everybody is willing to do an audit of where you're at, because we're not on this earth all that long. It truly is a finite amount of time. And I will tell you, coming from experience, my second company, guys, yes, we sold it and all of that. It was 6 years of absolute torture. I woke up every day. Now, let's be clear. I woke up, I made the choice to continue to go and be miserable, almost at the cost of my marriage. Again, I have to own that. That was on me. It wasn't anything to do with what was happening at home. It had so much of myself not being fulfilled in what I was doing. And what I would say is if you're avoiding, whether it's going to the job, coming home, which I did that as well. right? I started burying myself in work because I didn't want to come home because I wasn't fulfilled. And ultimately what it was, man, is I wasn't happy. Every single day I was waking up and I didn't like what I was looking at in the mirror. I was almost 300 pounds at the time. And what I would say to that person that's not feeling fulfilled, you need to own the fact that you have a choice. There's only 5 things we really have to do: eat, drink, sleep, breathe, shelter. My wife would also say release, but that's for, but you need to, those are the 5 things that human beings have to do. Everything else is a choice. So if you're not feeling fulfilled, I'm not telling you to go out and quit your job. I'm not telling you to go not be married to the person but you have a choice. You can choose to be happier in that marriage by dating that person again. You can choose to change the culture of the company, or you can choose out. And I think it's one of those things that everybody goes through at some point, and it comes down to you have the choice. No one's here to save you. And that was one of the hard things for me to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm the one that's creating all this. And the moment I made that choice, my health got better, my marriage got better. Well, what do you know? Now it was time to sell that company and create something that I really love doing again. And it was one of those things that I had to look in the mirror. And I know that's not always fun to do. Some of the advice I'm giving here is not exactly like, yes, this is really awesome. No, it's sometimes painful, but it's so worth it. And just being able to say, you know what, I'm making the decision to be truly happy and fulfilled, or I'm making the choice to be a victim and unfulfilled. But you are the only one that gets to make that choice. So give yourself the power to make it and go find it, because it's out there. Whatever it is out there for you, but you have to make the choice, and you got to look in the mirror.
Man, you saying life is short, it is so true. When I was leaving my corporate job, I lost fulfillment. I loved the company, by the way. I even enjoyed my job. There was just something inside of me that I just no longer felt fulfilled. And then it became a grind. And what I knew was, there was a repositioning happening that I was ignoring. And I was scared to death to make that transition. And sometimes people can get caught up in that. By the way, if you're watching this on audio only, go check out the YouTube, because JM said he was nearly 300 pounds. You should see the guy now. You look amazing.
Thank you,
this happens in a lot of different ways. Your physical, your health, all of these things can literally deteriorate your quality of life. So just to lean into that a little bit more, are there signs? If somebody is just they're kind of feeling it, but they haven't fully identified it, because some people are just lazy, if I could just call it. Some people just lack the ability to put in effort, and they're redefining it. What are some of those real signs that maybe somebody has lost fulfillment or inspiration?
The easiest one for me, Jeff, is, do you jump out of bed and are you excited for the day? And if you're not, you know that something's amiss. And whether it's your relationship or it's your career, those are kind of the big ones. Maybe it's your health, right? That's kind of the third pillar. When you wake up and you are just like today, I woke up and I couldn't wait to go do what I get to do, be on a show like this. But I've been in the other side where I was actually making some of those other companies. It was not a money thing. I was making so much money, not even having to work that hard, but that has nothing to do with fulfillment, in my opinion. And just like you said, the courage you had to make the decision, you know what? You went from the bottom to maybe not the very top, but darn near the very top of the company. And you decided, you know what? It's not a bad place. In fact, on my show, you said about how amazing the company was, but yet it just wasn't filling your cup. So that feeling that when you know, gosh, I'm not fired up, I'm literally going through the motions, that's really when you know. And I guess what I would say is, you're not alone. And I want people to hear that, because I know how lonely it feels when you have the responsibilities, when you've created this lifestyle and you're making X, now you have to make sure to take care of Y. I get it. But that Jeff made the same decision. Like, you know what? This isn't living. I want to be, like I'm electrocuted every single day. Now, does that mean it's going to be every day? No, I'm sure Jeff has bad days. So do I.
Sure.
But by and large, I am excited. I can't wait to talk to my clients, and I hug my family, and I'm so blessed in so many ways. But again, it had nothing to do with monetarily speaking, because truth be told, right now, the company I'm building, oh man, this is a great tax write-off. It hasn't been like wildly successful, this company as it had been before, and yet I couldn't be happier. And so man, I think are you excited at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day? And if you're not, check in and just give yourself that quiet time and say, what's missing?
Man, that's powerful. And to your earlier point, it doesn't mean just jump off the cliff, but it could mean take small steps. That's what I did. I started a podcast. I was not fully fulfilled. So how can I scratch the itch? I started a podcast. People responded. They wanted coaching. So I picked up one client, started doing a little bit of training on the weekends. I didn't just quit. Ultimately, I did. But I kind of put my toe in the water first. I think there's things that we can do about that. We've all been to the beach. You live at one now, so it's not fair. But, we've all been to the beach, and we're sitting there on the last day and trying to figure out how can we, braid people's hair and sell shells and make it work so I don't have to go back, right? Well, maybe you should explore that. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but maybe you can put a toe in the water. I don't know. I want to get your thoughts, and this goes back to your proven success in scaling businesses, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen into the show. And I talk to a lot of my clients about momentum, and I want to get your perspective on this because it's a real thing. In business, it's a superpower. It can create a strong competitive advantage. When we have it, we can feel invincible, unstoppable. It's almost effortless because, you got this ball that's going down a mountain and it can't be stopped, right? But when we lose it, it can be devastating, and it can feel like it's impossible to ever regain that kind of momentum again. What advice do you give to people, or can you talk to that leader that maybe is in that spot? How can we get the momentum created, and how do we keep the momentum when we have it?
Brother, this is huge because it is such a fickle thing, this thing called momentum. Because like you said, it teeters so easily. Like it could just, one moment, you like you said, I'm invincible. And literally the next day, it's like, I can't do anything right. And one of the things that I think there's three things to really, really do if you're looking to build and create and sustain momentum. The first thing is celebrate your wins. I don't care how little, how it is, just give yourself the satisfaction, the praise. I call it EPR, encourage, praise, and recognize. Give yourself that pat on the back. Give your teammate, hey, great job today. I saw what you did. That was awesome. And it automatically starts to create this thing, like you said, the snowball. Because when you first start that snowball, it's kind of hard, and you're really trying to push it. But once you start patting it, giving it pats and pats, now the next thing it's going. So celebrating your wins is one of the first things. The second thing, just get moving. The best thing I can equate it to is if you have ever done the hurdles. A hurdle is 42 inches high, okay? Now, I don't know, Jeff, if you have a 43-inch vertical. I certainly don't. But I can get over that hurdle if I'm moving. I just have to lift my leg up. I'm running, lift my leg up, and I'm cruising over it. It's the same thing with momentum. If you start moving and creating action, now you're starting to get other people that are starting to bring it in. And the third thing, and this won't be the first time they've heard it, won't be the last time. What are you grateful for? What are you truly grateful for in your life? Because I don't care how bad it seems, no matter what you're going through, trust me, Jeff, I know your backstory a little bit. You went through some really, really challenging times. Me losing my dad just over 3 years ago, that was a really dark period. And yet there's things I'm grateful for. I have a level of perspective today that I could never have because of that loss. Now, it doesn't make it any easier. I lost him, but I'm grateful for, having the 74 years with the man. I'm grateful for all the lessons he taught me. So the three things, just to recap, is celebrate your wins, get moving. And I mean moving the body, just making phone calls, just create action. And then ultimately, what are you grateful for? Is that something that you do on a daily basis? Because every time in my meditation or in my prayers, I'm talking about at least three things I'm grateful for. But I don't just do it in the morning. I'm doing it in the morning, I'm doing it in the afternoon, I'm doing it in the evening. And when I'm down, that's when I ask myself, what are you grateful for? Well, I'm grateful to be above ground at the end of the day. That creates momentum, because I promise you, if you focus, what you focus on grows. If you focus on the bad stuff, there's plenty of that around a corner for you too.
So true. I love, celebrate the small wins, not to give a sports analogy here, but sometimes positive yardage is better than being sacked. Maybe it's not celebrating a touchdown. Maybe it's just like, hey, we weren't sacked on this play. We moved the ball down the right direction, right? Sometimes that's what you need to get a little bit of a spark into an offense, right? And the gratitude piece. Didn't see that one coming, but my gosh, is it true? It is so true. Because if we were on the mountaintop at one point and now we're down back at base camp, it can almost seem impossible to ever get back up there again. And here comes us feeling deflated and woe is me and how could this ever happen? This feeling of this sucks. I always tell people, anytime that comes in your mind, just finish it with this phrase: compared to what? This sucks compared to what? Like, man, these taxes suck. Compared to what? Being homeless and not knowing where your next meal is coming from? Like, I think the fight for perspective, these are definitely momentum movers. And they get moving. That means that we're willing to get messy and we're willing to get dirty. The saying of it's tough to steer a parked car, it's true. You'll learn by falling and failing. That's how we learned how to ride a bike. I think it's great. I didn't know if it would come up. And so I didn't know how I would posture this. And if you don't want to go there, it's fine. But I found in my own journey, as well as coaching and mentoring people for years, none of us are getting out of here without adversity. Not one of us is going to escape a setback, a challenge, a gut punch at times. Life can throw us some real curveballs. And everybody listening has either been through it or they're going to go through it, most likely. I hope I'm wrong, but you would be the exception to every rule there ever was. I heard you mention the death of your father. I've seen some things that you've talked publicly about it. If it's not too personal, can you share that experience, and can you maybe speak to that person that's listening, that's maybe facing a gut punch, a blow of adversity, and give them advice on how to work through that to regain purpose?
Yeah. So what Jeff's alluding to is I lost my dad to suicide. Okay. Now this is my hero. This is my everything. And I didn't even know it was a possibility. Now, I know that's a really sensitive subject for people to talk about, but I'm open about it because there's a lot of learning lessons in this really unfortunate, horrible tragedy, right? I wouldn't wish it on the worst person, whoever that might be in the world. I would never wish this upon them. And yet, there's always something to be gleaned from it. Now, when you're going through it, like if you and I are having this conversation the day after I lost my dad, or the week, or even the month, am I seeing the lessons? Probably not, right? I'm dealing with the 5 stages and plus of grief. I mean, I'm going through all of it. I'm negotiating, I'm bargaining, I'm mad, I'm angry. I'm going through all of that, and that's perfectly natural. But what I would say is this too shall pass. And you know what? That's true in all regards of life. No matter how great you're doing right now, this too shall pass. No matter how bad it seems, this too shall pass. That statement has really been something that's helped me not ride the roller coaster as much. Now, in every adversity, there is the lesson. There's this beautiful lesson to be seen and felt, but you got to be willing to look at it. And I guess the best piece of advice I would give is give yourself the time to know that it's okay not to be okay. That, sometimes it does suck and it's horrible and it's painful and you might never, feel quite the way you did the day before you found this out, right? Just like I was 3 years ago. Like, I didn't know I was ever going to receive a phone call like that. And it's awful. I mean, there's a moment of my life that I can never really truly grasp, and there's questions I'll never have answered. However, I have a feeling for life. I have a zest for life greater than I ever had before. I want to live every single day to the fullest for my kids because my dad wasn't able to, right? And it's also professionally, Jeff, for me, that's why I work in the dentistry world. Some of my clients are in the dentistry space because it has the #1 rate of suicide in the country.
Wow.
I can help people with their mental health. So it would be selfish of me not to lend some of these things because I don't want anybody to go through it. So just know, anybody, if you're going through it right now, I'm sending you love. I'm not sorry, right? I don't say that any longer. I don't say I'm sorry because I don't want to send you sorry. My condolences, I'm sending you love. That's what I would say to those people that you're going through that painful moment. But look for the beautiful lesson, whatever it will be, because this too shall pass.
Man, that's powerful. I've been through it. You've been through it, JM. My condolences. Nobody's getting out of here unscarred. I haven't met one person yet. I haven't seen it. Haven't met it. Here's the real thing that sucks about adversity is the balance sheet doesn't care. The mortgage company doesn't care. The car payment company doesn't care. The life still continues despite you wanting to just shut down. And I think there is a time to take a respite and regroup. But life continues to go on. It continues to move. If I had to summarize what you said, and I think it's so profound, adversity has an expiration date. It does. As painful as that was for you, as painful as it was for me to bury 2 young parents, man, there's something, the beauty coming from ashes can be a real thing of, are we going to allow adversity to be an anchor or a propeller? We choose. We choose, just like we talked about fulfillment. We choose. And this is coming. Why? And I'm glad, and thank you for talking about it, because it's one thing to give advice and have empathy, and maybe think you can tell somebody how to get through something. It's a whole nother thing when you have been through the valley and you've come out and found the mountaintop. You have, my friend, have earned the right to give that advice. So beautiful and powerful, and thank you.
No, thank you, brother. And you know what I would say is it doesn't define you, right? Just like the death of Jeff's parents, it doesn't define him. He's not a victim. He chooses to be a victor. Yeah. And that's not always easy either. And that's the one thing I want people to be okay knowing that it's not going to be easy. And there's amazing people like Jeff and other people that are going to lift you up and say, I see you, I understand you're going through something, and you will get through this. And I liken back to your one of your mentors, Jeff. I remember on your show, the guy that called you and said, hey, I'm not going to let you continue down this path because I see where it's going. It's time for you to step up. And, that's a true friend. That's that friend that's willing to give you the hard feedback that you're better than this moment, whatever that moment may be. So anyway, big subject, brother. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you for sharing your heart around it. It's important because, again, if there's one listener listening that gets something out of that, it could literally change the course of their path. and it's important that we do talk about it. Man, you're amazing. I'm grateful for your resources. Keep writing books, my friend. Keep the podcast going. What you're delivering to the world of leadership and people, I mean, what you do transcends leadership, quite frankly. You're a great resource to leaders, though, and that is our audience. And you have a lot of amazing resources. Can you share with the listener, hey, your message resonated with them today? How do they find you? Maybe give a brief update. I mean, I think all of your books are amazing, but Let's Go Win, I mean, that is a shelf keeper. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you, brother. So Let's Go Win, I wrote it for my kids. That was, I wanted my kids to have something that they could read, in 3 hours or so and get out of 12 chapters, something that's really going to be impactful for the rest of their lives. So that was the purpose of that book, and I'm proud of all of them, but that one is near and dear to my heart. If anything I said resonated with people, Jeff, Let's Go Win, the podcast that Jeff is on, check out his episode. He's a freaking rock star, as you guys well know. And letsgowin.com has all the resources, free resources available to you. And you know what? I would say if you want to get in touch with me, info@letsgowin.com. I love doing what I do, Jeff, and helping businesses double, triple their revenue has really been what I've made a career out of. So maybe somebody listening is looking to do that, and we might be a good fit. Maybe not, but maybe. So thank you, brother, for what you're doing and showing up in this beautiful, authentic way. It's pretty rare, and the referral you gave to me, by the way, I'm very humbled to receive that, and thank you for that. So I'm grateful, man. You filled my cup today, so thank you.
Same goes. I mean, there's a lot of people we could have on this show, and a lot of people that are qualified, but you transcend business, JM. Like your authenticity and your heart, it is felt. So thank you. We're grateful for your investment of time and sharing with us today. We're grateful for you being on the show. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. You could invest your time in a lot of different places, and you choose to show up week in and week out and let me be a part of your journey, and I'm grateful. I hope this discussion that we had today with JM, it challenges you and it encourages you not only to grow as a leader, but to also lead others in a profound way. Until next week, keep inspiring, keep challenging, and always keep turning that pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.